It all began at a lavish wedding, where laughter and music filled the air. Yet, in the middle of the dazzling celebration, a 5-year-old boy sat alone, tears rolling down his cheeks, clutching a broken balloon. No one noticed him except one man. Leonard Hale, the billionaire CEO feared and admired by all, froze in his tracks. For the first time in years, he knelt down, wiped away a child's tears, and in that instant, his entire world was about to change. Today, we bring you a heartfelt romantic story. So let's begin. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss any of our meaningful stories. The shimmering light of the chandeliers spread across the luxurious wedding hall. The clinking of glasses, the laughter, and the soft jazz music filled the air, creating a picture-perfect scene of luxury. But in the middle of that picture, Leonard Hale, the young CEO, one of the richest self-made billionaires in the city, stood alone in the corner of the room. He wore an expensive custom-made suit, a shiny Swiss watch on his wrist, but his eyes were cold and distant. To most of the guests, Leonard was the epitome of success. Powerful, handsome, in charge of a multinational corporation. But in his heart, all that noise was nothing more than meaningless noise. Leonard was not a party person. He had only come because of an invitation from his old classmate, now the groom, that he couldn't refuse. For Leonard, this was more of a social obligation than a pleasure. He checked his watch for the 3rd time in 10 minutes, calculating exactly when he could leave without anyone complaining. While he was still pondering about finding a way out, a small but resounding sound suddenly interrupted, the cry of a child. Not the usual whining cry, but a trembling, choking sound, carrying with it the utmost loneliness. Leonard was startled. Instinctively, he turned around to look. On the steps near the garden behind the hall, a small boy in a loose tuxedo sat huddled. In his arms, he held a deflated balloon tightly, his eyes sparkling in the darkness. The guests passed by, unnoticed. They were busy with their own pleasures, but Leonard could not be ignored. There was an invisible force that drew him forward. He sat down softly, forgetting about the expensive suit that might be covered in dust. "Hey kid, why are you crying here alone?" Leonard's voice was low and gentle, as if he was surprised at himself. The boy looked up at him with his brown eyes. They were so strange that Leonard took half a step back. In those eyes, he saw his own childhood again, lonely, left behind by busy people. I dropped the juice. I couldn't find my mom," the boy mumbled, clutching the balloon tightly. Leonard gently pulled out a delicate handkerchief from his pocket and handed it to him. "It's okay, I've dropped more important things than juice before. Trust me, you'll be fine." The boy stopped crying and looked curiously. "Are you a prince? You look just like in a fairy tale." For the first time in years, Leonard laughed heartily. "No, I'm not a prince. I'm just a man who felt lost, just like you do now." In that brief moment, the icy wall around Leonard's heart seemed to crack. He smoothed the crooked bow tie on the boy's collar and fixed his soft, curly hair. "Look, now you look like a real gentleman." The boy smiled slightly. "We are like 2 princes of the same kingdom." The innocent words made Leonard pause. 2 princes. Same kingdom. He had never belonged to anyone, never thought he would share the same world with anyone. But this boy somehow made him feel not alone. Just then a female voice rang out, choked and trembling. "Ethan, where are you?" The boy jumped up, his eyes shining. "Mom!" Leonard stood up, his heart clenched as a familiar figure emerged from behind the roses. Isabella Lane, the woman who had meant everything to him and who had left him without explanation 5 years ago. The simple blue dress hugged her slim figure, her face was still breathtakingly beautiful. But her eyes were now filled with tears, both worried for her child and surprised when meeting Leonard's eyes. Ethan ran to hug his mother tightly. "Mom, this is Uncle Leonard. He helped me. He even said we were like 2 princes." Isabella was stunned. Her lips trembled, but she could not hide her troubled gaze. Leonard was also speechless. He only knew one thing: this boy was his son. The air around the garden suddenly became thick. The music from the great hall still echoed, the laughter still filled the scene, but to Leonard, everything seemed to have stopped. It was just him, Isabella, and the boy with the same brown eyes as him. The boy, Ethan, hugged his mother tightly, babbling about what had just happened. But Leonard could only hear the pounding in his chest. Every piece of memory he had tried to bury in his work, in his billion-dollar deals, suddenly came flooding back. He remembered the old evenings when he and Isabella lived in the small, old apartment, eating instant noodles, but still laughing loudly as if the world belonged to them alone. He remembered the way she looked at him when he vowed to build a bright future for both of them. And he remembered that morning when he woke up, she was gone. Not a word of goodbye, not a letter, just a cold void. Now she was standing right in front of him, along with a 5-year-old boy with unmistakable eyes. Isabella, Leonard called her name softly, his voice hoarse like someone who had just walked through a dry desert. She bit her lip and squeezed her son's hand. Don't act like we just parted yesterday. That boy, Leonard looked straight at Ethan, then looked at her. He is my son, right? Isabella closed her eyes, as if the question were a knife cutting through her heart. She didn't answer, but her silence was more than a confession. Leonard felt the ground shaking beneath his feet. For years, he had been tormenting himself, thinking that he had lost the love of his life because he was not good enough. But the truth was different. He had not only lost her, but also lost 5 years of fatherhood. Ethan looked between the two adults, his innocent eyes filled with wonder. Mom, who is that guy? He looks a lot like me. The question was like a hammer blow, breaking Isabella's fragile defenses. She bent down and stroked her daughter's hair. Ethan, this is an old friend of mine. Old friend? Leonard laughed, but the laughter sounded heavy and choked. Isabella, are you really going to deny it? Do you know what you just took away from me? Isabella looked up, her eyes blazing. Do you know how I lived these past 5 years? While you buried yourself in business, in numbers, in so-called success, I was alone carrying and raising my child. Do you think I left because I didn't love you anymore? No, Leonard, I left because the man I loved had become a stranger. You built a wall between us, each brick being a meeting, a contract, an evening without coming home. Her words were like a knife piercing into a wound that had never healed. Leonard could not refute because deep down he knew she was right. He had been so obsessed with proving his worth that he had lost what was most important. He took a step back, looking up at the moonlit night sky. I just want to give you a worthy future. I'm afraid I'm not enough, afraid that one day you'll regret choosing me. Isabella shook her head, tears falling down her cheeks. Don't you understand? I never needed skyscrapers or lavish dinners. All I need is you, the old Leonard, the man who believed that love was the most important thing. The silence was oppressive, except for the sound of the wind rustling through the rose branches. Ethan looked up at them both, confused by the sight of his mother crying, then gently tugged on Leonard's hand. Uncle, did you make Mom sad? But I like you. You talk to me like a friend, not like other adults. You even gave me a handkerchief. Can you stay and play with me? Leonard bent down and looked into those innocent eyes. His heart clenched. In that moment, all the deals, all the meetings, all the halo of the powerful CEO became meaningless. He just wanted to stay, to listen to his son's laughter. He turned to Isabella, his voice trembling. I know I have no right to ask for anything, but please give me a chance. Not a chance with you, but with Ethan. Let me be a father, even if it's just a small step. Isabella looked at him for a long time. Her eyes were angry and hurt, but also had a hint of weakness when she saw Ethan holding Leonard's hand and refusing to let go. If you really want to enter his life, you have to be wholehearted, not half-hearted, not treating him like an appointment between business deals. If you can't do it, don't show up. Leonard nodded, solemnly as if he were signing the most important contract of his life. I promise. This time, not for me, but for our son. At that moment, Ethan smiled brightly, hugging Leonard tightly around the neck. And for the first time in years, Leonard felt something that money could never buy, the true meaning of love and family. The moment Ethan ran off to find his grandmother, leaving only Leonard and Isabella, the atmosphere suddenly became so heavy that it was hard to breathe. The music from the hall still echoed, but to Leonard, it seemed like there was only the violent beating of his own heart. He looked at the woman in front of him, Isabella. It was still the same face, the same eyes, only now her eyes no longer had the gentle light of years ago, but instead was a storm of anger and hurt. Leonard swallowed and said, "How long are you going to hide it from me? You know very well that Ethan is my son." Isabella clenched her fists, her voice trembling but cold. "You have no right to question me. Where were you when I needed you? 5 years ago, I stood alone in the hospital room, trembling, waiting for the ultrasound results. Where were you, Leonard? When I held my baby for the first time, looking at that little red face, where were you? In some cold conference room, huh?" The words struck a chord in Leonard's heart. He lowered his head, his hands clasped together as if he wanted to crush himself. He remembered those days when Isabella disappeared. He buried his pain in work. Billion-dollar deals, hundreds of pages of contracts, he threw himself into them like an addict, believing that success could fill the void. But no, the more successful he was, the lonelier he became. He raised his head, his voice hoarse. "I was wrong. But do you know why I was like that? I used to be a kid whose birthday no one remembered. A kid who grew up in a dilapidated apartment, abandoned by both his parents. I swore that I would never be poor again, that I would never let the person I love suffer from poverty. And while trying to build the future, I lost the present." Isabella's eyes glistened with tears, but they did not fall. She gritted her teeth. "Leonard, I never needed luxurious mansions, 5-star restaurant dinners, or the latest sports car. What I needed was a man who would come home before dinner. A father who would read fairy tales to his children. A companion who would listen. But you chose numbers, chose the balance sheet instead of choosing us." Her words took Leonard's breath away. He looked down at the ground, memories flooding back. The times Isabella waited for him by the window until midnight, the sad look in her eyes when he missed anniversaries, times he made promises and then broke them. He had thought it was just a temporary sacrifice for the future, but now he understood it was those little missed moments that killed their love. A silence fell. Only the wind blew through the flower garden, carrying the light scent of roses. Finally, Leonard spoke, slowly but with determination. "I can't change the past, but I can start over from the present. Give Ethan a father. Give you a chance to see that I'm different." Isabella laughed, but there were tears in her laughter. "How is it different? Leonard, you are a powerful CEO, always busy. Do you dare to skip a meeting to take your child to school? Do you dare to turn off your phone to listen to your child tell a silly story? Do you dare to put aside a business deal to sit down and have a simple meal with your child? If you can't do those little things, don't show up. I'd rather let my child think he doesn't have a father than have a superficial father." That challenge pushed Leonard into a corner. But this time, he did not back down. He took a step forward, looking straight into her eyes, his gaze determined. "I dare, and I will, not for you but for Ethan. I do not want him to grow up like me, an abandoned child in his own family." Just then, the sound of small footsteps rang out. Ethan returned with his cheeks smeared with cream, holding a huge piece of cake. He exclaimed happily, "Mom, Uncle Leonard, eat cake with me. It even has small candles like fireworks." Leonard bent down, looked at the boy's dirty face, and his heart melted. He gently stroked the boy's curly hair. In that moment, he knew this was no longer a choice. This was fate. He smiled, looking at Isabella. "This is my beginning, and I won't miss another moment." Isabella did not reply, just looked at him for a long time. In her eyes, there was still doubt, but also a glimmer of hope, the glimmer of a second chance. Fireworks from the wedding party exploded in the sky, illuminating the entire garden. Leonard looked up and said to himself, "From today on, I will choose the most important thing, not profit, not power, but family." After the wedding night, Leonard Hale left the hotel in silence. But his heart was no longer the empty pit it had been before. Inside, a spark was burning a new fire, the fire of fatherhood. He didn't sleep all night. He remembered Isabella's doubtful but hopeful eyes, Ethan's innocent smile when he called him Uncle Prince, and he knew that if he wanted his son to truly call him father with all his affection, he had to do something he had never dared to do before, put family before work. The next morning, when Leonard walked into the Hale Global headquarters, he was a different person. Instead of immediately immersing himself in financial reports, he opened his phone and texted Isabella. "Can I take Ethan out this afternoon? Just the two of us." The message was sent. He sat motionless, his heart pounding as he waited for the verdict. A few minutes later, the screen lit up. A simple word. Okay. Just one word, but for Leonard, it was the greatest opportunity of his life. That afternoon, when Leonard drove his luxury car to a stop in front of the modest house where Isabella and Ethan lived, the boy was already standing at the door. His eyes were shining. Ethan shouted, "Mom, Uncle Leonard is here. Let's go." Isabella stepped out, arms crossed, looking at Leonard. "If you made a promise, keep it. Ethan is very trusting. Don't let him down." Leonard nodded, solemn as if signing a life and death contract. "I will not break my promise." Ethan ran up and climbed into the car with an enthusiasm Leonard had never seen in anyone's eyes. On the way, the boy talked endlessly about pirate games, about his favorite plastic sword, about how he wanted to try riding a real horse. Leonard listened to every word, smiling. For the first time in years, he didn't think about stocks, didn't think about competitors, didn't think about profits. He only thought about how to make his son happy. They stopped at a large amusement park in the city. Instead of standing outside to watch as usual, Leonard and Ethan tried everything. The carousel, the pirate adventure, even the pinball game. His usual impeccable suit was replaced by a simple shirt, jeans, and sneakers that his assistant had never seen him wear. People saw Leonard, the famous CEO, laughing heartily when his son smeared ice cream on his face. Many people took pictures and talked about him, but he didn't care. At that moment, he was just a father who knew what simple joy was for the first time. Ethan chuckled. "Father, no, Uncle Leonard, you really are like a pirate. Let's be captains and sailors." Leonard paused when he heard the word father almost come out of his son's mouth. His throat tightened. He leaned down and whispered, "You can call me whatever you want, Ethan, as long as it makes you happy." Ethan smiled, not saying anything more, but that sparkling look in his eyes was enough for Leonard to feel the whole world shrink in those eyes. In the evening, they returned home. Isabella stood at the door, watching her son happily showing off his prize, a teddy bear twice his size. Ethan hugged the gift tightly, ran into the house, and shouted, "Mommy, today is the best day of my life." Isabella turned to Leonard, her voice low. "You made him laugh. I haven't seen him this happy in a long time." Leonard looked straight into her eyes. "This is just the beginning. I won't stop at one day. I want to be with Ethan. I want to learn how to be a father little by little." Isabella was about to reply when suddenly, another luxury car stopped in front of the house. A woman stepped out, Claudia, Leonard's ex-girlfriend, a rich young lady who used to appear at parties with him. Claudia looked Isabella up and down, then laughed contemptuously. "So this is why you disappeared from recent events. A provincial girl and an illegitimate child." Isabella turned pale. Ethan poked his head out from inside the house, his eyes bewildered. Leonard stepped forward, blocking Claudia and Isabella. His voice was cold as ice. "Claudia, that's enough. This is my family. If you don't respect them, I suggest you leave." Claudia's eyes widened in surprise. "Your family? Leonard, are you kidding me? The whole city will laugh at you when they find out that CEO Hale has an illegitimate child with a poor girl." Leonard clenched his fists, but his voice was steady. "It is better to let the whole city laugh than to lose them again." The air was thick. Claudia left angrily, leaving behind a trail of acrid exhaust fumes. Isabella looked at Leonard, her eyes still filled with uncertainty but with a little more confidence. Ethan ran out and grabbed his hand. "Uncle Leonard, you look like a superhero today." Leonard bent down and hugged his son tightly, and in that embrace, he knew this was the greatest victory of his life. The next day, the atmosphere in the city was explosive. There was not a single newspaper, news channel, or social media forum that did not mention the name Leonard Hale. On the cover of this morning's magazine, the bold headline reads, "The city's richest CEO reveals his illegitimate child. Who is the mysterious woman?" The image of Leonard holding Ethan at the park the day before appeared everywhere, secretly captured from every angle. In the photo, he smiled gently, his eyes filled with love, completely opposite to the image of a cold businessman that the media was familiar with. As Leonard entered the Hale Global headquarters, dozens of reporters rushed in. Cameras clicked, flashbulbs blared. "Mr. Hale, is that boy really your son? Is the woman living with the boy your ex-lover? Do you think this will ruin the company's image?" Leonard stopped in the middle of the crowd. In the past, he would have coolly walked away or let the media team handle it. But today, he took a deep breath, looked straight into the camera, and said in a deep voice, "Yes, that boy is my son, and I am proud of that. Whoever wants to use this to bring me down, please do, but I will never disown my family." The short statement sent the hall into an uproar. Some reporters froze, others rushed to spread the news. Leonard walked calmly into the building, but his heart was pounding, not with fear but with a new pride. For the first time, he had dared to put his family before his reputation. In the upper floor conference room, the atmosphere was heavy and suffocating. The major shareholders sat around the long table, their eyes filled with anxiety and anger. Mr. Graham, a veteran investor with silver hair but a voice like a hammer, banged on the table. "Leonard, you are destroying your career. The financial world cannot accept a CEO with a personal scandal. We need someone clean and scandal-free." Another shareholder chimed in, his voice full of menace. "If you don't control it, the board will be forced to convene an extraordinary meeting, and your CEO position may no longer exist." All eyes were on Leonard, waiting for his reaction. But contrary to their anger, he sat upright, his gaze determined. "If you think a company can only stand on its own image, you are wrong. True value comes from trust and people. I will not abandon my son just to keep a position. If necessary, I will leave, but I will never leave my family." The room fell silent. No one had ever seen Leonard, a man known for his cold blood, dare to give up power to protect his family. That afternoon, Leonard showed up at the small house where Isabella and Ethan lived. As soon as he saw the car stop, Ethan ran out, holding a scribbled picture in his hand. The boy held up the paper, his voice filled with joy. "Dad, I drew our family. This is Mom, this is me, and this is Dad." Leonard paused. For the first time, Ethan called him father, not hesitantly, not in a slip of the tongue, but with complete innocence. His throat tightened, his eyes stung. He knelt down and held his son in his arms. "Ethan, you just gave me the most precious gift in my life. I promise to always be here, never let you feel lost." Isabella stood by the door, watching silently. There was both worry and a glimmer of hope in her eyes. That night, the three of them sat around a small dining table. There was only a bowl of hot soup, some bread and stewed vegetables. But for Leonard, this was the best meal of his life. Ethan chattered away, Isabella occasionally chuckled. As for him, for the first time he didn't think about the contract, didn't think about the stock, didn't think about the competition. He just wanted to engrave this moment in his heart. Isabella hesitantly asked, "Leonard, are you sure? This path will not be easy. The press, shareholders, the entire upper class will ridicule you. Do you dare to give up part of your power, part of your glory?" Leonard put down his spoon, looked straight into her eyes, and said in a deep, steady voice, "I have everything, but I am still empty. Now I choose my family. If I have to trade power, I accept it, because there is nothing more precious than hearing my son call me father." Isabella was silent. Her eyes were filled with mixed emotions, still wounded, but also filled with a faint hope that Leonard had truly changed. Late at night, when Leonard returned to his luxurious penthouse, he stood in the middle of the cold room, watching the city glow outside the glass window. All the power, fame, wealth suddenly became bland. He opened his schedule, saw an important meeting with a European partner tomorrow, a deal that could bring in hundreds of millions of dollars. He looked at the screen for a long time, then smiled and pressed the cancel button. Because he knew tomorrow, where he needed to be, was with Ethan and Isabella. And for the first time in years, Leonard Hale felt truly free. The next day, the entire media was abuzz as the Hale Global Board held an emergency meeting. The news spread. CEO Leonard Hale may be forced to resign. The meeting room was packed that day. The shareholders sat in long rows, their eyes cold. Mr. Graham, the most senior, spoke up. "Leonard, you have brought the company to the top. But this scandal has severely affected the image. If you do not deny it, we will be forced to vote to remove you." The whole room seemed to wait to see what Leonard would choose, power or family. Leonard took a deep breath, his eyes shining. "I once chose work over love. As a result, I lost everything. This time I will not repeat the mistake. If I have to choose, I choose my son. I choose my family. And if the CEO position does not accept a father, then I am ready to leave." A murmur arose. Some were stunned, some were angry, but Leonard remained calm. In his heart, he had never seen it so clearly. He had found himself again. That afternoon, Leonard knocked on the door of the small house. Isabella opened the door, surprised to see him empty-handed. No expensive suit, no shiny car, just a man with sincere eyes. He walked in, knelt down before Ethan, and handed over a small box. Inside was not gold or silver, but a wooden boat that he had carved by hand overnight. "Ethan, I'm not good at earning toy money, but I want to do this for you myself. Can you give me a chance to be a father every day?" Ethan's eyes widened and he hugged him. "I don't need toys, I just need Dad." That innocent sentence made Leonard choke up. He turned to Isabella, his eyes trembling. "I don't know how to start over. But if you give me a chance, I will learn. I will learn how to cook breakfast, learn how to take the children to school, learn how to become a man worthy of this family." Isabella looked at him for a long time. The painful years came flooding back, but also the beautiful memories. She sighed, tears rolling down her cheeks. "Leonard, I don't need you to be perfect. I just need you to be truly present. If you can do it, then we can try again." That day, the three of them went to the park together. Ethan ran around in his wooden boat, pretending to be a pirate captain. Leonard and Isabella sat on the bench, the sunset spreading across their faces. Isabella said softly, "Do you know, Leonard, today I realized that the man sitting next to me is not the cold CEO of years ago. He has returned to the Leonard I used to love, the one who believes that love is more important than money." Leonard smiled, squeezing her hand gently. "And this time, I won't lose you again." Ethan's laughter rang out like the most beautiful music. The sky was dyed purple, bright lights poured down as if witnessing a new beginning. That night, when Ethan was brought home, the boy sleepily leaned his head on Leonard's shoulder and muttered, "I love you, Dad, don't disappear again." Leonard hugged his son tighter and whispered, "I promise. Even if the whole world turns its back on me, I will still be here, forever." Isabella looked at the scene, her heart breaking. After years of repression, a family finally found each other again. The story ends not with a lavish ending at the pinnacle of power, but with a small family, a man finding himself again, and a simple reminder. The greatest success in life is not power or money, but being present in the small moments with the people you love. As I reflect on this story, I realize that life often tests us with the choices we make between power, wealth, and love. I once believed success meant having it all: money, titles, recognition. But in the quiet moments, what truly matters is not how high we've climbed, but who is waiting for us when we come home. Family, love, and presence are treasures that no empire can replace. Money can build walls, but love tears them down. And sometimes, the greatest courage is not in conquering the world, but in kneeling down to hold the hand of someone who needs us most. So I want to ask you, have you ever chosen ambition over the people who matter? And if you had the chance to go back, what would you do differently? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might inspire someone else today. If you find this story meaningful and want to help us share these important values, please subscribe to our channel so you won't miss the next inspiring story. Together, we can build a strong community full of potential and a spirit of justice.